It's tea.
It's been that kind of day. And Scott, since she had a big pour, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead.
I didn't
I'm
realize
gonna
it was
go
that
ahead and
loud.
polish off the rest of this one, okay? Because everybody,
Amen.
now 7:30, and I would like to welcome all of you to the culmination of the very first International Petit Verdot Day. Everybody, thank you so much for joining me. As my good friend Dave Nershi says, bring it in. And welcome to the very first International Petit Verdot Day.
Amen.
A day dedicated to a varietal that has been long been ignored. For people who do not know me, my name is Arthur Barham. I am the creator of Merlot de Muscadine, media dedicated to North Carolina vineyards and wineries. But tonight I come to you in my capacity as not the creator of Merlot de Muscadine, but the creator of a wine holiday dedicated to the varietal Petit Verdot. So, with all that in mind, let me first tell you very briefly why I created this wine holiday, okay? And it is so simple. I was celebrating International Champagne Day and read up on it and discovered that it was the brainchild of a wine blogger. And since I'm one, I thought stupidly, well, if they can do it, then I can too. And I actually consulted with Dave, hoping and thinking that he would talk me out of such lunacy. And he and I sat down and actually put together a game plan. Contact these people, do a tasting, do this, do that. And the next thing I know, International Petit Verdot Day was born. Just like with International Champagne Day, which has a significance you may not be aware of, the originator picked October 28th because that is the day in France when in Champagne the grapes are generally ready for processing. I picked the last Saturday in January as International Petit Verdot Day because my daughter's birthday is on the 21st and my wife's birthday is on the 29th. And they are both big fans of Petit Verdot. And guys, I have to tell you, a lot of people are doing dry January, more power to them. But I noticed on the wine calendar, January was a month devoid of wine holidays. And that's how I arrived at the last Saturday in January. And that's why we are all here together. I am so excited to see all these knowledgeable people. And I think what I'm going to do now is just give you a moment to introduce yourselves and tell everybody who you are. And I'm going to start with Becky and Dean at Hayes Gray. Becky, Dean, you have the floor.
So we're Becky and Dean Muhlenberg, owners of Hayes Gray Vineyards here in Surrey County, North Carolina. We're 100% estate bottled wines, and we have our Petit Verdot, which is 100% Petit Verdot. We're happy to be here.
And it's so delicious, and I'm going to be drinking some of that in just a few minutes.
And I have to tell you, he's had some of it already. So have I.
But Becky, Dave is the one. When I question how much we drink, he always looks at me and goes, "Arthur, we're professionals." So I keep that in mind. Thank you, Becky and Dean. I also have the honor and privilege of being joined by Diana Jones from Jones Von Driel. Diana, would you say hello to everyone and tell them a little bit about you and your winery?
Hi, everyone. I am so happy to be here with all of these lovely people on the inaugural Petit Verdot Day. I am one of the owners of Jones Vondrell, along with my husband, who is our founder and managing partner and visionary, and my sister and her husband, Ronnie and Raymond Vondrell. We are the tip top of the Yadkin Valley AVA in Thurman, North Carolina, right on the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Beautiful site. We too are 100% estate grown and produced. Started in 2007, and our grand opening was May of 14. Our Petit Verdot that we're tasting tonight is 100% Petit Verdot, but we also use it for one of our other, it's a major component in one of our other wines as a blend. So I'm really happy to be here, and I look forward to hearing about everybody else.
Thank you so much, Diana. The next person I'm going to call on is the dynamic duo of Scott and Elizabeth Barone sitting there looking so stately. Scott, tell everybody about Petit Verdot at Castillo Barone.
So we, my wife and I, Elizabeth, we are the owners of Castillo Barone Vineyards and Winery. We are a relatively new vineyard. We just celebrated our 1-year anniversary in November. We will soon, with our 2023 releases of our wines, we'll have estate grown wines. We decided when we opened up that we would, obviously grow our vines and so forth like that. But as they're maturing, we source local grapes all within the Yadkin Valley area to blend in with our vines as they're maturing up and so forth like that. Our Petit Verdot, we really like a lot. Speaking of dry January, this is a dry wine, so that will meet your heart for dry January. But yeah, I mean, we enjoy what we do. We love being a part of this. Arthur, we applaud you for getting Petit Verdot on the map. I mean, Petit Verdot, just like Diana said, I mean, we have a varietal of Petit Verdot. We also use it as a blending grape in some of our other wines, and that's primarily what a lot of folks have done in the past is to use Petit Verdot as a blender. But Petit Verdot, when it's done right, is a fantastic wine, and we really like it.
Thank you, Scott, for saying those nice words. I didn't know I had it on the map yet, but I'm working on it, okay? Next, I want to call on Krista from Golden Road to say hello to us and talk to us about Petit Verdot at Golden Road Vineyards.
All right, thanks. Was that my husband and I, we own Golden Road Vineyards in State Road, North Carolina. It's about 10 minutes from Elkin in Surrey County. I am actually drinking tonight our second bottled vintage. We were the second owners of Golden Road Vineyards, and this is our only bottled varietal, single varietal Petit Verdot. It's our 19, and 19 was an excellent year. And we're super excited about bottling our 22 single varietal Petit Verdot in the next month or so. It's been aging for a little over 2 years. And in between then, we've had Petit Verdot as a major blending grape. We have them in about 4 of our blends. The most recent one is Lola, which was after my mom, or named after my late mother. And it's we used about 25% Petit Verdot, aged for 2 years in New Hungarian. So yeah, back to you, Arthur.
I was just at Golden Road a few days ago, and I had the opportunity to taste the Lola with Chad and Krista, and it was delicious. Last but not least, I want to introduce my dear friend, my wine mentor, my wine buddy. He is I give him credit for igniting my affinity for this varietal. We were in a similar format like this. I believe, David, it was Open That Bottle night. And you had a bottle of Petit Verdot from somebody. I can't remember who or where, but the way he described it, I knew I had to have some. And I've been in love with it ever since. And like I told Dean and Becky before you came on, I fell in love again today all over again. Dave Nershi, the renowned editor of Vinosphere, would you say hello to everyone?
Yes, hello, everyone, and thank you for the kind introduction, Arthur. I'm Dave Nershi, certified specialist of wine, I do publish Vinosphere, which is a wine blog. I'm also a board member of the International Food, Wine, and Travel Writers Association. And I've enjoyed tasting wine with Arthur and collaborating with him over the years. It's been a lot of fun, and certainly enjoyed today the big event that Arthur put on. And I had the chance to taste each of your Petit Verdots today. And they were all outstanding. So it was wonderful. So thank you, Arthur, for the chance to be here.
Thank you, Dave, for taking time out of your schedule to be here, especially considering the fact that he is leaving the country tomorrow. So we really appreciate you squeezing us in.
You bet.
So everybody, why don't we go ahead and get started? I just want to pick your brains and share your knowledge and experience with the people who are tuned in. And believe it or not, there are some people who are watching us on Facebook. Dave, our mutual friend, Natalie Hampton with Tar Heel Taps and Corks. My friend Amy Montani, I know her as Wino Tar Heel Mom. She is tuned in, as well as I told you, Sharon Logan Kelly, my friend who has property in upstate New York as well as in Western North Carolina. She is tuned in as well. So everybody, thank you again for sharing International Petit Verdot Day with me and drawing it to an appropriate close. I want to talk about this evening in three parts. First part I want to talk about is the past. And when I say the past, what Petit Verdot has been to us up until a few years ago. Many of you have touched on the fact that it has primarily been used as a blending grape. I'd like you to weigh in on, when it is a blending grape, what does it bring to the blend, and why has there been this hesitancy, it seems, to go single varietal with it? Diana?
Well, I mean, we've been producing a single varietal since we began. So 2012 was our first vintage. So we bought into it really early. I think that, traditionally, sometimes it's a little hard to ripen coming out of France at Bordeaux grape. And so, traditionally, they use it more in small amounts for blending for all the reasons that we know, great structure and tannin and color, and it just adds that oomph to a wine. I did during the COVID timeframe, I did a virtual event with some wine experts out of France. And so we discussed the differences in how Petit Verdot was used there versus here. And they said, rarely do you see a single varietal Petit Verdot coming out of France. A few people, but it's not often. So, when Petit Verdot shows great propensity to age well, and whether you use it as a single varietal or whether you use it as part of a blend, as in our Steel and Stone, we see those wines lasting a long time. So it's exciting.
What about you and Elizabeth at Castillo Barone? Because you are kind of a relative newcomer, okay? You have been open a little more than a year, but I know you have had this in the repertoire for quite some time. So
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and just like Diana said, I mean, the French, I mean, they use it a lot as blending, especially in their Bordeaux blends. I mean, as from the France or Bordeaux, it's either cab based or Merlot based, but they always are bringing in the Petit Verdot. Petit Verdot is a really can be a very full bodied red wine. It has great fruit characteristics on it also, as well as the color. A lot of times they use it to blending to add color. Back in. I mean, if you look at this, look at the dark, rich, inky grape that Petit Verdot produces. But with that dark, rich, inky grape, there is a lot of really good stuff in there to be perfect layman's terms. Another thing here, it grows well here in North Carolina. It grows well. It adapts to our environment here. And like I said, while we use it in some of our blends, we use it in our Bacchus blend. I also use it in my Setoso blend. It adds a certain richness back into, into that blend when you mix it with either Montepulciano or with Tannat and things of that nature like that. But it's great blending grape, but on its own, it stands up really well. It stands up tall, and I enjoy it. When you can find a good Petit Verdot on its own as a varietal, it's fantastic.
Dean and Becky, you have a lot of Petit Verdot at Hayes Gray, and if I remember right, the grapes right there beside the cabin, are they Petit Verdot?
They're, well, three varieties up. The Traminette is right by the cabin. But I mean, to add to what everybody said, we use it as a single varietal, but we've always used it in blends. As Diana Scott said, it does very well adding structure, color, especially tannins to a blend. You don't need a whole lot of Petit Verdot in a red blend to give it a lot of structure and complexity. From a growing standpoint, it probably is the most labor intensive grape to grow of the red varieties. It does take a lot of care. You have to treat it right. But if you do, you get a very good grape out of it, very good yield. It's in North Carolina, it's a fairly high yielding grape. So you get good yield, and you can usually let it hang for quite a while to get more tannins, more complexity to the grape. So from a North Carolina standpoint, I think it's a very good grape to make into a varietal because it does so well here.
Krista, how much do you and Chad have under vine at Golden Road?
We have 0.8 acres, and that's the one right by the tasting room. Right now, our thing is we know we start strong. And then we know that our Verdot likes to hang heavy about halfway through the year. And then and it's always just a waiting game because it's the last one you want to pick. We've last couple of years have waited till October. The previous owners would always get it in September, but we've let it hang till October, even through all that crazy weather we always get at the end.
David, I'm glad you were there with me for the tasting today because you saw me solicit input from the participants as to what they liked and what they didn't like. And I think you were there when one of my more knowledgeable wine friends said he didn't care much for tannins. And I thought, are you in the wrong place if you don't want tannins? But David, can you speak to something? I hope I don't catch you off guard, because you did indeed have everybody's here that you see. But you are here because of your expertise with what is done in Chile and Argentina and other countries. Can you compare and contrast Petit Verdot in those
Sure.
countries to us?
Absolutely. First, Arthur, I just wanted to mention my experience over the years with it. My first introduction was Petit Verdot in Bordeaux blends and Meritage for the US blends, and it was great. And before I moved to North Carolina, I had a trip to Loudoun County, Virginia, for a wine conference. And during that time, we stopped at a winery called Flying Fox, and they had a single varietal Petit Verdot. The first time I ever tasted it, and it just really blew my mind. It was so good. It was lush. It was ripe. It was fresh. I thought this was amazing. And so since that time, many years ago, more than 10 years ago, I've been on the lookout for single bottles of Petit Verdot. And I've also found that North Carolina, like Virginia, is very well suited to growing and producing Petit Verdot. You mentioned how does it change in different countries? So Petit Verdot has different faces so to speak, depending on the climate, the altitude of the vineyard, the terroir. In France, it might be, mostly used as a blending grape, but it's more earthy than you might find. In the US, I find it's more fruit forward, like the example I mentioned in Virginia and also North Carolina. Sometimes you get a little bit of vanilla, and it works well with oak aging. In Argentina, you get ripe fruit flavors. I was there a year ago, very smooth, velvety, blueberry, blackberry. It's also a really great grape in South Africa. South Africa has a French wine tradition because they had Huguenots left France, they settled in South Africa, and they brought with them their winemaking knowledge. And so they've got sort of old world techniques there, and just very ripe, fruit forward there. Australia also does a lot of Petit Verdot, and sort of like their Syrah, it might be overly ripe, maybe a little bit of eucalyptus there. But yeah, so like any grape, Cabernet, for example, it takes on the characteristic of the place where it's planted.
And Dave, it's interesting that you mentioned Cabernet because for me personally, Cabernet Sauvignon was the first big, bold red I ever had. I never had Tannat. I never had Sagrantino. I never even had Cabernet Franc. And I tended to make Cabernet Sauvignon the standard when it came to big, bold red wines. And I think that is what enamored me to Petit Verdot because it has that big boldness, but it's so much more complex and opulent and can be so varied depending on the grape and how the winemaker treats it. Everybody, our audience on Facebook is increasing. Joe Brock of the NC Wine Guys has joined us. I know they're proud of me because I used to watch them do this all the time. They make it look so easy. Sharon Kelly has also joined us. I told you she's my friend who has she spends part of her time in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes and part of her time in western North Carolina. I believe she is drinking a Petit Verdot from my good friends at My Sweet Love in Spindale, which I just happen to have a bottle of tucked away. And also Dennis Latham from Mountain Brook has joined us as well. So everybody, we have a big crowd, and I want to let them know that I appreciate them as well as you for joining us. You have so eloquently talked to me about the past for this varietal. Tell me what's going on now, especially exciting things. And Dave, you don't have a vineyard or a winery, but you are a wine writer who keeps his finger on the pulse of everything that is going on. So any trends or anything relating to Petit Verdot?
Well, you mentioned Cabernet Sauvignon a little while ago, and I hope one of the trends is that winemakers don't just focus on what's popular, but they focus on what grows best in their state and in their area. Because before, people were trying to grow Cabernet Sauvignon in areas that were not well suited for that grape. But Petit Verdot is one that's really well suited in North Carolina and Virginia, for example. What I'd like to see, I'm glad to see more and more single varietal Petit Verdots. And I know that Petit Verdot really started as a blending grape, but what about blends where you have Petit Verdot taking on a more dominant role in the blend? And Diana, I don't know, you mentioned, what blend do you use Petit Verdot in?
So our Steel and Stone
Okay.
is 2/3 Petit Verdot and 1/3 Cabernet Sauvignon. So it's turned out to be it started as sort of a mistake, and it turned out to be an absolutely beautiful wine. So, I mean, we have a 2013 Steel and Stone in our tasting room right now that was aged for 72 months. This is absolutely a beautiful wine.
That is one of my favorite wines of yours, along with the Blanc de Blanc. So, really good stuff. And so I think there's a lot of potential there to take Petit Verdot and maybe even blend it with grapes that you wouldn't expect. You know, maybe I know in the Finger Lakes, for example, they're doing things where they're blending like Blaufränkisch with Pinot Noir, for example. Who would have thought of that? So I think there's an opportunity to experiment with Petit Verdot and sort of elevate that grape. I think that the climate in North Carolina maybe is better suited for Petit Verdot than it is in France. So I just like to see it, more people become aware of it. And I think thanks to Arthur and International Petit Verdot Day, we're sort of elevating the profile.
This is the part that I've looked forward to the most. I want to talk about the future of this grape in North Carolina, in your vineyard, in your winery. And I'm excited, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I don't usually hear people say, well suited for North Carolina. If I had a test and they said, tell me a grape well suited for North Carolina, the first grape out of my mouth is muscadine. Okay. So I'm very glad that our heat and our humidity don't kill everything. Okay. But what I want to talk about is the future. And let me put some talking points out there. Will you continue to use it as a single varietal, more or less? Will you continue to use it as blends, more or less? Scott, you make a beautiful port style. Becky and Dean make a beautiful port style. Am I crazy? Or could we maybe one day have a Petit Verdot port style?
It's
The
possible.
floor is open.
No, it's possible. I mean, when you talk about the future and things of that nature like that, obviously, yes, we use it as a blend as well as a varietal. I mean, our flagship wine is our Bacchus, which is a blend of Tannat and Petit Verdot. Speaking of grapes that grow well here in North Carolina, Tannat grows really well. So you blend these two powerhouses together, and it makes a fabulous wine. But you're right. I mean, Petit Verdot, because of the fruit structure that's there, could lend itself to being a good tawny style port. We use Tannat as our base right now. Something interesting to maybe work with and try.
You know what, Scott? You could call it King Arthur. You could put me on the cover of it with like a bow tie. But I can tell you right now, there's somebody screaming at their computer going, that's my idea, and you can't use it without my permission.
Who's
Becky,
screaming, Mary?
no, somebody else. I'm not even going to tell you. I'm not even going
All
to
right.
tell you. I'm going to make it boil
Well,
in the juice.
We'll have to talk on the QT later, Arthur.
Becky Dean, talk to me about the future of Petit Verdot at Hayes Gray. Are you going to plant more? Are you going to use it in more ways?
You're talking on mute.
You're muted.
Thank you, Krista. So we have a Petit Verdot from the beginning as 100% varietal. But we also, as you mentioned, our port style, our general quarters is 100% or is Petit Verdot aged for 4 years that we've added brandy to. And it's a huge success. And in all of our military blends, we've used a little bit of Petit Verdot in almost every one of them. And we have 5 coming up on 6 different military blends. And so we continue. It just seems like our wine club really likes that Petit Verdot, a little bit of Petit Verdot, a little bit of Tannat in there to give it a kick with the right, the black currants, the extra plum fruit, the depthness to it, the tannins. So we're going to continue to use it in our blends, but so we just had our 5th year anniversary. From the very beginning, we've had a Petit Verdot varietal. So we're going to continue that.
Diana, what about you and the good folks at Jones Van Drill?
Well, obviously, we believe in it because we've just planted more of it. So, and we started with a single varietal Petit Verdot and it's been a big success. We're getting ready to release to our wine club our 2019 Petit Verdot, which is an absolutely beautiful wine. And as somebody said, 19 was such a good year. And Steel and Stone, our first one was 2013, and we don't necessarily produce one every year, but we'll continue to do that. So yeah, I mean, most of our wines are single varietal wines. We now have the white blend, Tristan Twine, we have the Rock and Roll, and we have the Steel and Stone. Those are the only blends that we do.
Krista, I know you and Chad have a very, very strong white wine program, your Petit Mansing, your Traminette, and you also have the wonderful red blends there. Will you continue to use Petit Verdot as one of your backbone grapes?
Absolutely. I don't see any reason to live in this state and not take advantage. Again, work smarter, not harder. So both the petites, Petit Manseng, Petit Verdot, it needs to start to really define it defines North Carolina. North Carolina is going to define the wine. So it's helping each other for the long term.
David, I know you've been a wine writer for a long time. I know you were up in the Ohio area. You saw a lot of change going on there. And now you've come down here, and I know you have seen, just as I have, from essentially a front row seat, the development of this varietal. What are you looking for anything in particular in the future when it comes to this grape? I know we talked about seeing it more as single varietal, okay? But you always have your finger on the pulse of trends that I don't even think about, from non-alcoholic and mocktails to organic and vegan. What else does the future hold for this grape?
Maybe Petit Verdot could be used in some non-traditional techniques. I don't know if carbonic maceration would be something, for example, aging in an amphora, for example, different methods of aging. So I think there are a lot of ways that you can play with it to get different flavors out of the grape. And I was sort of curious because we have a distinguished panel of winery owners here about whether the cold weather that we've recently experienced, the snow, which in the Raleigh area we hadn't had for 3 years, basically, and then the cold temperatures affected your vineyards. And then I was also wondering if Petit Verdot is disease resistant or winter hardy. So I'll throw that open to anyone who may have a comment.
I can comment on that. So far the weather hasn't been any issue with the Petit Verdot. I was out in the vineyard yesterday, and there were no issues. Normally with the cold weather, you're going to get trunk splitting, and we haven't seen that. And actually, cold weather is not bad for grapes, up to a point, of course. You don't want to get down to like 4 degrees. But I can't remember the second part of your question. Sorry.
Yeah, so my question was whether the weather affected your vines and also
And disease
yeah,
resist.
exactly.
my Petit Verdot, at least on my vineyard, tends to get a lot of trunk disease. I every year have to replace vines because of trunk disease. But that's in North Carolina. That's sort of comes with growing vines, because with the hot, humid weather and the amount of insects we have, that are vectors for some of these, especially the trunk diseases, we're constantly fighting it. But it does seem that Petit Verdot tends to get more than its fair share of trunk issues.
Ah. Okay, thank you.
For me personally, I have two things I look forward to in the future for Petit Verdot, and this should scare all of you, okay? Number one, maybe a sparkling
No,
Petit Verdot.
we were just
Or-
talking about pet
Or
nap.
who said that? Somebody said we were just talking about that,
No,
okay?
Liz and I were in the background. We were talking about a lot of what.
Or-
So we've got some things that we're doing, and we're going to be doing some pet nats, and I've been thinking about with one of the reds of doing a pet nat with one of the reds. I was leaning towards Saperavi, but maybe we can do small batch experimentation.
You do a
With-
wonderful rosé of Montepulciano at
Mm.
Castillo.
Well, that makes a good
Barham.
sparkling. Yeah, it makes a great
Maybe-
sparkling.
Maybe a rosé of Petit Verdot. And Dave, did you hear that word that Scott just said? Saperavi.
Oh, yes.
Dave just gave me a gorgeous bottle of Saperavi from the Finger Lakes.
Oh, Dr. Frank's.
My lovely. It's from
Yeah.
Georgia.
That's actually from the country of Georgia.
From
Okay.
Georgia. But
But,
I remembered it was
Dr.
Saperavi.
Dr. Frank's rocks the Saperavi, and the first time I tasted it was at a Finger Lakes winery called
Yep.
McGregor.
Okay.
Very small operation, and they have Saperavi and some other really unique.
No, they do. That's where I grew up. I grew up in the Finger Lakes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes, I mean, Dr. Frank does a good job with it. So's Herman Weiner does a really good job with it too.
Herman J. Yes, I've
Yeah.
been there. As well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, everybody, I have to say, it is so enlightening and so exciting to hear people who say they love tannic wines.
Mm.
Because again, David, we were with about 30 people, and a big chunk of them, they didn't want anything to do with tannins. All they wanted was fruit. And believe me, to each his own. But you got to admit, Petit Verdot lends itself to become a big, bold, opulent wine. And I just feel like you're doing a disservice if you, I'm not going to say you do anything less with it, but if you can't stand the heat, you should not come in the kitchen. Okay. So, everybody, I think what I want to do now is kind of wrap it up. I know your time is valuable. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to bring it to a close, and I'm going to go around and give all of you an opportunity to just say one final thing that Arthur
Do
did
that.
not cover about Petit Verdot, and we will draw this discussion to a close. Okay. Diana, I will start with you.
Well, thank you for hosting this tonight and really putting some emphasis on Petit Verdot. We think it's an absolutely beautiful grape and makes an unbelievable wine. For us, we find that the aging that we do for our wines, and especially Petit Verdot, is extremely beneficial. It has tannin, but the tannins aren't quite so harsh when we age it the way that we do, and it makes for a very lovely drinkable wine. But yeah, come see us.
Thank you, Diana. Dean and Becky, final
So
thought.
thank you to everyone who came out and shared your Petit Verdots. I look forward to tasting some of those. I wanted to say, don't forget about the North Carolina Wine Growers Conference this weekend. And those people can come, the public can attend that, or they can attend the Taste of NC on Friday night from 6 to 8 at the Benton Center. And I know there'll be some Petit Verdots at that event. And so hopefully we'll see everyone there.
Thank you. Elizabeth, Scott, final thoughts?
Um, yeah, we want to say thank you very much. Again, we applaud you for putting this together. From a Petit Verdot perspective, you mentioned Cab Sauv earlier and things of that nature like that. I think Petit Verdot rocks. I think it can be a really big powerhouse. Just like Diana said too, the tannins aren't offensive. They're nice. The Petit Verdot produces a nice rounded tannin. It gives you that the nice backbone on there. But it just makes a really, really good wine, and we're really happy to be able to have that here in the Swan Creek AVA and produce it. We will continue to do it, continue to put it out there. Well, obviously next Friday night we'll be at the Taste of North Carolina. We'll be pouring our Vermentino, but not our Petit Verdot. But and hopefully we'll see somebody come out and join us here at Castello Barone too and enjoy our Petit Verdot.
Thank you, Scott. Krista at Golden Road, final thoughts.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that I've been wanting to say is, and Dave Nershi, I'm glad you mentioned something about growing what grows well in the area, not trying to just grow Cab Sauv to grow Cab Sauv. One of the first, I guess, marketing classes I took here, when I was living in Virginia, so this was in like the Charlottesville area. They said our biggest competitor here on the East Coast with wine isn't each other, it's California. So many people have come into our tasting room and said, I want a California cab. And I'm like, welcome to North Carolina, try our Petit Verdot. And that's one of the things that we really, I think, as a community, it's you just need to come together, and then as the maturity happens, which I've seen especially a lot the last like years that I've been here, I've really been impressed with how far and how quickly you've come, and I'm really excited about where we're going to go next because yeah, it's here to stay. And I guess I want to say cheers, and I'll see y'all at Taste of NC next Friday as well.
Thank you, Krista. My good friend Dave Nershi, final thoughts.
Yeah, I was going to say, sorry, I can't be at the Taste of NC. I'm leaving tomorrow for Panama, a place where they have no wine and no Petit Verdot, but they do have nice sunny weather. But having a chance to taste 7 different, I guess it was 8 different Petit Verdot wines today at Arthur's event showed me that there's a wide spectrum of winemaking techniques that are used. There's some great wines, especially in North Carolina, produced with Petit Verdot. So the state of Petit Verdot in North Carolina is great. It's one of my favorite grapes. I especially like it with tannins and with a little bit of age on the bottle. But God bless the USA and God bless Petit Verdot.
Amen.
Thank you, Dave. I wish I had a flag I could wave at this point. In closing, I just want to say that this is just a microcosm of what we all know is a bigger picture. Because again, I counted no less than 15 different producers of Petit Verdot in this state. And again, I want to thank all the people who tuned in on Facebook, especially Joe Brock, Gina Sanders, my friend Sharon Kelly, who has made us aware of a Saparavi festival. I don't know any details about that, but if Sharon gets it to me, I promise to get it out. And everybody, I have to tell you, I've been enlightened and inspired because I want to start now making this an annual event for me. And you all know that I regularly during NC Wine Month will do blind sparkling. Well, from now on, the last weekend in January, I am going to do Petit Verdot. And from now until January 2026, I'm going to go all over the state, country, and world and acquire as many Petit Verdots as I can. and I sure hope all of you have one there. Thank you so much for what you do. Your product is a labor of love. And I think it should be very clear to all of us that the future is very bright for this varietal. Everybody, raise your glass up and join me in a toast to close out the inaugural International Petit Verdot Day. Thank you all for joining me, and I promise I will see all of you very soon. Cheers.
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 Salute.